I need to start learning how to make this successful, how to make this into a business. Charging $100, that's not a business. Where do I need to increase the experience that they're having, both with communication times, turnaround time, how they feel with me? I don't think that you literally need to have the world's best product in order to be doing good business, especially if you're paying premium prices, or at least what is perceived as a premium price. You expect a premium service.
Yeah.
Analyzing businesses like Lamborghini, Louis Vuitton, they make sure that you feel like you're their customer. If they don't have that though, they're not selling any experience.
Sure.
You can't sell something that doesn't have a story.
Guys, welcome back to another podcast, Shack in Progress. It's been a while, just to let you know. It's been like a month because I've been transitioning from an office to this office, and then I haven't reached out to anybody. So when I reached out to you, you were the first.
Heck yeah.
So welcome.
Setup's
Trent.
legit.
Thanks, man. Thank you. You're the first to experience the setup. So
I think I remember saying too that like you should like do like a black wall with a logo or something. I'm like, that would look so nice.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'm excited to see what this looks like in the setup. And just so everybody knows, Trent brought his setup here, and it's crazy, way better than mine. So if the camera and the lights look better, thank you, Trent.
My pleasure.
We'll get into it, but his business is in videography, photography.
Sure.
But on the way here, what did you see?
Oh my gosh. I was geeking out a little bit, guys. I saw probably one of my highest end dream cars that, God willing, that becomes a reality of my life. But a Koenigsegg Regera, and it was black with gold accents, like
That's
just
crazy. Yeah.
nutty spec.
Yeah, you showed me the video. It was like crazy.
and he I think he saw me recording, so he decided to do a little downshift, and then he pulled right by me.
Yeah.
And I'm like just casually cruising. I won't say how many chickens we were doing, but there was
Mexico,
a lot of chickens.
You're in Mexico, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
a lot of chickens in Mexico.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, I mean, I grew up watching, or we're like little boys. We just like cars, right? That's all we are. We're just kids that love cars. And over here, we're literally looking at my Supra and your Z06, which is like crazy. We're just big kids.
Quite the view.
It is both white. It looks great. He would definitely beat me. Just if you guys have any questions about that, we talked about it. But Trent, this podcast is about business entrepreneurs, business owners, creators in progress to where they want to be.
Yeah,
right. And
100%.
me, I'm in progress with my health, my weight, and business. And, we all want to get to a certain place.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
So bringing you in, we just want to uncover some of the challenges you faced. From what I see on social media, you've been doing this for a while. Mm-hmm. And I forgot to do one thing. I'm going to do it right now. You had a post. I go deep in everybody's social media.
Yeah.
And your first picture was back in 2016. And
on my actual Instagram?
On your Instagram, yep.
I didn't even know I had pictures from back then.
Yeah, 16, okay. And it's a black and white photo of the Golden State Bridge, Golden Gate Bridge. Yeah.
The funny thing is, I think those were all shot on just like an old iPhone too.
Really?
I had no background of photography. I wasn't even into photography. I just like snapped a picture and like threw an edit on it. I remember, I think I know the exact one you're talking about because that trip is very memorable to me.
It was black and white almost.
Yep. Foggy.
Yep.
I really, really loved that vibe. That was the first time I ever saw the Golden Gate too. So
cool.
It was awesome.
Okay, cool. Well, I always like to figure out where the start is, and I do a little bit of research and can't find much about you, but I found enough to
early on
conversate.
Sure.
Yeah, exactly. So take me back to kind of how this business started for you. And I know you're a veteran, there's a few things in your history, but let's kind of dive right into your start in entrepreneurship. Did you notice anything growing up as a kid that you were going to get into entrepreneurship or start a business?
See, that's a funny thing. I grew up in the Midwest, and I was raised to work really hard and to work for what I wanted. If I wanted to have Pokemon cards or whatever it was I wanted at the time, Bakugan, all those nerdy things, video games, I had to work for it largely. Those were things that weren't provided to me as much because they're not necessities. So they're things I wanted, but I didn't necessarily have any sort of, I guess, how do I word it? Like surrounding environment around entrepreneurship.
Right.
Um, that's actually something that I like kind of envy about, the kids that grow up here in the area, Scottsdale, Phoenix in general. There's just so much business here. And I'm like, I wish I had grown up around that because I think it would have impacted me very heavily. So I didn't really grow up around entrepreneurship. I was, raking lawns and, mowing lawns and shoveling snow in people's driveways. And like my dad told me, like, yeah, just like go knock on their door, ask for like $10, $5, and get people to do it. And that's how I, first ever really made money. And then I got like a paper route. I was doing a paper route. I would wake up at like 4 o'clock every morning.
What?
My dad would drive me to the town where my school was. I would deliver papers in the morning, go back to sleep for like an hour or two, and then go to school every single morning almost.
What? Wow, this is a crazy childhood. And I remember mowing lawns myself, but it sounds like you took it pretty serious. It wasn't like this, like, I'll just do it and then maybe not do it anymore.
Well, genuinely, like I said, I had no idea. It was pretty casual. It was just like, oh, well, I want to buy Pokemon cards, so I'm gonna make money to do so.
Well, you're too young to get a job, right?
Yeah, a
So,
real job,
right,
at
yeah, to
least.
like get on paperwork and like go to work somewhere.
Yeah.
So, what did mom and dad do for work?
So my mom, she she's in like the secretary space. She started in like medical secretary. That's like what her degree was in and stuff. Now she works for Principal Financial, so like largely like handling accounts and stuff for
Cool,
investments.
nice.
But I believe it's like a secretary position. If I'm to be correct on that, if she watches this, I'm gonna feel bad when it's wrong. But
We all need secretaries, right?
that is true.
Needed in
It's
the world.
a very big necessity in business.
Yes.
And my dad, the funny thing is he actually has a business degree.
Oh,
He
wow.
went to college for business, but he wanted to start a record or a CD store. And
Cool.
at the time when he graduated was right in that transition between records and CDs. And he wanted to, I think it was a record store. Now I say that. He wanted to have a record store,
Okay.
but it was right in that transition where CDs became big, and he never wanted to open a CD store. He wanted to open a record store.
Wow.
So I don't know if that's like the whole story. Obviously, there's probably some more back end on that, but he ended up having my sister with my mom, and they never went into business. So he has worked at a metal factory, like almost my entire life.
Nice.
So yeah, he's been working there for, shoot, I don't even know, almost 30 years now.
That's crazy.
'Cause I'm almost 30 years now. I think about that,
Yeah.
dude. That's
Hey,
scary.
that's cool. I mean, I've said this in other podcasts. Like, I've been around a lot of entrepreneurs and guys with deep pockets and private jets and everything. And I admire the people who are happy with what they do, no matter how much money they make. Right. And it's a tough pill to swallow when you're in Scottsdale, you're right. And you're driving around, everybody's
difficult.
got Ferraris and stuff.
Shiny object syndrome.
Exactly, exactly. And hearing your dad, and if your dad loved his job and took care of his family, and showed up to work every single day on time, he's successful to me too, right?
Yeah.
It's hard, being in this entrepreneurial world when you've got people making millions. But just from me to you, it's like I respect your dad just as much as I respect you, and I think there's both success in that, right?
Yeah. I
So
appreciate that.
you were already mowing lawns and then doing these paper routes, which is pretty crazy. As a kid, how old were you when you were doing that?
So paper routes, I started when I was like 10.
Dang.
And then when I was like 13, I had saved up enough money to buy my own car,
What?
$400 cash.
13?
Yeah.
You went to go buy the car?
Yeah, no title.
Oh.
I
So it was
wasn't
a
even old enough to
junkyard,
sign
or
a title.
what did you use it for?
Drive to school, drive to sports.
There's no
stuff.
title?
I grew up in a very, very small town.
Where is this at?
Delaware, Iowa is the name of the town I grew up in. It's like 150 people total.
Wow, Delaware, Iowa.
The school I went to was a combination of like 4 cities and all the country between. Yeah.
Wow.
Class was still 43 people.
Holy cow. Is your family still there?
A large amount of them, yeah.
Wow.
But the Midwest like taught me a lot about like creativity, I think, in the sense that we had nothing to do there. There is really nothing to do there unless you're creative.
Wow.
So like learning how to, have fun outside, play with a basketball,
Mm.
go make a fort in a scrapyard.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
things like that are like kind of the way I grew up. I remember getting grounded once for lighting a fire in my yard on purpose, in
Because
fact.
you're just trying to have fun.
Yeah, well, I mean, I had it controlled. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
my dad didn't care.
Right. Right. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Kid and fire don't really mix well, but
Tends to be a bad mix.
Yeah, exactly. So I had two other gentlemen that were on my podcast. They're real estate agents here. They came from Iowa. I don't know what city, but it's a small city also.
Okay.
And I had this question for them. And now that I know your background, so they were there and their family's still there. And I think their city's a little bit bigger than yours. And if they didn't make the jump to come here, they'd probably be there the rest of their life, right? So kind of, we'll go back and forth, but fast forward, you're there, you grew up there, your family's still there. What got you to take that leap to leave the city?
Oh, it gives me tingles thinking about it actually, because like it is like it took a lot. I went to college and I was gonna go to college for like to become an officer in the Air Force originally.
Okay.
Like in high school, that's what I thought I wanted to do. I didn't pull the trigger. I was really scared. I even got a potential scholarship for soccer and I turned that down
Oh,
because
wow.
I just was the type of person that couldn't commit. I was extremely scared of that stuff. I wasn't confident in myself. The person I was when I was in Iowa is a whole different person.
Wow.
Like night and day. Like it's actually funny because my wife mentioned once like, "Oh, I wish I knew you back then." Like I just like I'm sorry that you had to go through those things, but I tell her I'm like that's the way it was meant to be. Um, it's just you go through the things that you are to make you what you are now.
Okay.
And I had to go through that to realize like I guess that rock bottom of like college. I didn't like what I was doing in college. I didn't like college. I wasn't really making friends. I thought I'd, reinvent myself, try to become a new person and the person I wanted to be. It just never really happened. Um, there was one thing I discovered in college though that obviously extremely changed my life was I got into cars.
Oh,
So,
I see.
and
Okay.
that was about 6 months before I joined the military.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a little chunk there I'm missing. So where'd you go to college?
It's a community college in Iowa,
In
Des
Iowa.
Moines.
Des Moines. Okay. Is that far from your like local city?
Sort of, yeah, it's like 2.5 hours. So it's
Okay.
like in the central Iowa, and then where I lived was eastern.
Okay. So you go to college and it's a little bit outside of home and you experience a little bit more life,
City life for
city
the
life,
first
right?
time.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
exactly. Tell me a little about that. I mean, did the rest of your family go to college or, you know, I guess going out to community college was still local, quote unquote, instead of like going to another state. But what was it like living in a new area completely by yourself, the college life, but seeing city?
So I actually lived with my mom the
Oh, okay.
year that because she lived in Des Moines, and it worked really well that I would be able to live with her, not have rent,
Nice.
and plus I didn't grow up with my mom. Like I would see her, but I didn't grow up with her. So, um, sorry, blank.
You're good. You're good.
The ADD kicked in.
It's all good. All good.
Sorry, what?
City life. City life. What is it
Oh
like living
yes.
city life?
So like I had gotten a taste of like what it was like to live in a city, right? Especially when I started to get into cars, right?
Right, right, right.
Started to be around cars I had never seen before, ride in cars, partake in some fun activities to say
Yeah,
the least.
same.
We'll just leave it at that because this
Yeah.
is on cam.
Yep.
So I started to realize that like I really liked that for myself was the city life and like kind of all it had to offer, the people it had to offer, the diversity, and even the diversity in Des Moines is terrible compared to like anywhere else.
Right, right, yeah, yeah.
It's still largely white.
Okay.
So I really wanted to be out of that.
Wow.
Honestly, I didn't like the lack of diversity
Okay.
because I just felt like it didn't leave me to learn much.
Okay.
I liked learning about other cultures and different types of people, and that kind of stuff. And I realized that in college. But yeah, I think that was, I realized like, oh yeah, I don't really like college. This isn't the route for me. I'm not gonna really ever be able to make the money I want.
Right.
And so I kind of went and talked to a military recruiter, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe I just need to enlist. I need to get out of my city. I need to get out of my state
Mm.
and figure out what I want to do with my life,
Wow.
and hopefully the military will help me find that, or
Right.
maybe the military is that.
Interesting.
So, and I think that's, you talk to anyone who's ex-military, that's relatively why they joined.
Yeah.
They just
It's
didn't know
true.
what to do. They maybe were on their like last straw, if you
Hmm.
will.
Yeah.
So,
What did your family think about joining the military? Was it like all in? Are they good with it, or what was that like?
my dad was very supportive. I think he's always been extremely, extremely understanding of what it is I want to do. And my mom was supportive, but she was scared,
Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things where I reassured her, like, Mom, I'm going to the Air Force. Like, I doubt I'm ever gonna see combat.
Yeah.
So like, there's no need to worry.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say, yeah, it was all across the board. It was very supportive for
Okay.
sure to join.
That's
But
good. Cool.
yeah.
So the military was the bridge to kind of where you're at now.
Yes. Well, there's a few things there to unpack. Join the military. Um,
Well, at least to get out of get out of.
yeah, that was a huge, huge bridge there. But there's still like I guess to actually like start with what really actually started like my like entrepreneurial journey
Yeah.
is when my sister passed away. I don't know if you've seen that video
Mm-mm.
about me explaining kind of some of that, but my sister passed away in a car accident.
Oh, no.
So I had inherited her camera, and I knew nothing. I wasn't into photography. I didn't know anything about photography or anything at all. But I was like, well, if we're not going to use this camera, if no one else is going to use it, can I have it? And just eventually, I remember the first time I ever tried to use that camera, my dad was actually in Albuquerque visiting. We took my 370Z and we went out to Jemez Springs, which is like super scenic area in New Mexico. It's like gorgeous, like there's falls, there's all that. We went out there and I remember taking a picture of him, literally butt with the butt of the Z. It was great. And that was the first time I ever used a camera,
Cool. What
honestly,
camera
like
was
that.
this?
It's a 70D Canon.
70D.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I started on a pretty good setup,
Yeah.
honestly.
That's a sick camera,
I
actually.
was a little spoiled for sure.
Cool. Sorry about your sister and had that happen. So you're in New Mexico by this point,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
And that was
Albuquerque.
because of the military.
Yep, yeah, that was my first duty station.
Okay.
I guess that's like, I kind of wanted to jump to that because that's like where my actual entrepreneurial journey starts.
That makes
Is in
sense.
Albuquerque.
Right.
I finally picked up a camera and I was taking pictures of my car, which was a Focus ST at the
Okay.
time.
Okay.
And I got the Z like not long after that. But the first time I actually took out the real camera was once I had the Z. But I was like, I'm taking pictures of my car on my phone.
Right.
Why not use the camera? Because I had the camera sat
Yeah.
for like 2-3 months
Wow.
and I didn't even touch it.
That's very interesting. Like, well, I was going to ask you, what do you do for work during that time? But you're in the military, so you're doing whatever duty you have at work, right? And you're getting paid there. And then for hobby and for just the passion's sake, you're driving your Focus and taking pictures. It wasn't anything more than that.
No, oh, not at all. I genuinely didn't even know that people got paid to take pictures of cars. I did not even think that was a thing.
Right.
Like I had never seen that. Like I said, I never saw that kind of stuff growing
Yeah,
up. I
yeah.
never saw artists. I never saw like genuinely actual people who make money with it.
Wow.
Not like 90% of the time where I'm from, artists are associated with people who are bums.
Wow.
They don't make any money.
Right,
They're
right.
usually still at home. That's just how it goes.
Yeah.
So of course we have those stereotypes there.
Right.
So I never knew that was a thing. So like for probably like 7-8 months, I was just like shooting at car meets, and then eventually it was like around probably like 4 months of doing that, like shooting at car meets, that my friends were like, hey, like you want to take pictures of my car? And then like other people at meets were saying it, and then eventually, after like 6-7 months of not charging anything, I didn't
Yeah.
even know I could.
Right.
someone hits me in a DM, hey, how much to take pictures of my car? I'm like,
That's a question,
how much?
right?
I don't know, like $20? Like pay for my gas? I don't know. Like
Yeah,
I genuinely didn't
that's
even know
amazing.
what to
Yeah,
say. So I'm like $20, and like at this point, like I said, it wasn't a business even at this
right.
point.
Yeah.
I just had literally made my first bit of money doing it.
Wow.
So I was like 8 to 9 months in. Just literally, that's why it's hard when people ask me like, "Oh, I want to get into photography. I want to start a business." I'm like, honestly, like I wouldn't recommend getting into it if you want it to be a business
Right. Yeah, because
because it just
it's
won't
flip
happen.
flop for you. It was a passion first, and then a business later.
I think it's so hard to go the other way because you're almost forcing it to make money. So therefore, you're more focused on an end product coming back to you as opposed to what you're providing.
Right.
And a lot of times it's the natural progression is the other way around. It's similar to, I compare it to like dating apps. If you go into a dating app and you start dating a girl, you already know you're into each other. Whereas if you just meet a girl naturally, there's a
Yeah. Yeah.
process there that goes
There's
through
always a
that to
hidden
where you're
motive.
liking them.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yep.
if it's
Sorry,
a
hit the
dating
mic
app, you're like, there's a hidden motive between both. You know, you're both
100%.
looking, right?
Yep.
So in the back of your mind, there's always this doubt about it, right? But I can see what you're saying because, people do want to get into business to make money. And,
100%.
but the challenge is, are you going to stick through the challenges without the passion or the love of it, right?
It's difficult.
Yeah.
I've still had so many trying times. I'm
Right.
sure we'll get to that
Yeah,
in a
yeah,
little bit, but
yes,
like,
yeah.
yeah.
So, okay, that's really cool that first off, you love the passion of cars, so you decided to get a car that's in that world, right? A Focus ST.
ST, yeah.
Those things are sick.
Loved it, dude.
Those are still great.
J turns everywhere.
That's
I'm
funny.
serious, dude. I beat the brakes off of that
Hey,
car.
dude. And it has a lot of space in there, so it was a good car. Then you get into the 350Z.
370.
Oh, 370.
That was my
370.
dream car at the time.
Nice.
I really wanted a manual red 370, and one popped up at the local Nissan dealership. I was there that morning, and I went and paid way too much for it.
Yeah. We all get there. We all do that.
I got the shiny object
That's
syndrome
cool.
right
Hey.
there for sure.
Yeah, I mean you bit the bullet, you did it. And how does your family handle stuff like that? Did your family finance cars and get new cars every few years, or what was that life like?
My mom has finance stuff, like with I think finance cars and stuff before that, but largely I come from like a debt-free belief.
Got
Like
it.
you
Dave
buy
Ramsey
it
type of thing?
cash, you can't buy it type stuff. Like I grew up like every car I ever purchased was with cash up until I was in the military because
Right.
I had a set income this much. I
Right.
knew this much, so I can pay this much. I had already established credit at that point.
Right.
You know, I actually was lucky that my dad was smart enough to get me a credit card at a young
Younger
age,
age, right.
and to teach me how to use it as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Like use it for gas, use it for just any other normal thing you're buying already.
Right.
Like, which is the greatest mentality ever to be teaching a 16-year-old.
Right.
So I
Agreed.
wasn't using it for anything stupid. I was only using it for gas in my cars to get to practices and back to school and
Yeah.
stuff. So, I mean, yeah, they were definitely like a debt-free family
Okay.
for sure. Like,
So
they
going into
did
this
not believe that.
purchase, was it uncomfortable for you? Like, how was that feeling?
So my Z was my second finance car.
Okay. Okay.
So the ST was actually my first, but it was just a lot lower of an amount, so it wasn't
Right.
as scary.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was still scary, and I did kind of not get the best rate on it. And then
Right.
same with the Z. There's a whole backstory about that, but yeah.
Yeah.
Because the motor blew up on the ST. Cost me like $9,000 out of my
Dang.
pocket. Car
How
was
did that
barely
motor blow,
worth-
though, is the question.
Well, see, the funny thing is, I was actually only cruising at 80 miles an hour
Okay.
in sixth gear, and it blew up. Like, I'm being
Really?
serious.
Oh, okay. Okay. I thought
I'm
you were being
just
sarcastic.
cruising. No, I was like straight up just cruising. I had like 5 people in the car, full loaded car, and it starts pillowing smoke through the thing.
No way.
Yeah. And then I spent like 5-6 months trying to get it fixed.
Wow.
I had a Ford Ranger for like 2 months just to
get by.
drive to work and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I ask because, it depends on the background. Like for me, it's not like financially savvy to how I grew up to finance a car, especially a nicer car with,
Mm-hmm.
So it goes against the grain, you know, and went against the mentality of getting a higher car payment, right? And I got into this philosophy for myself, like the higher the payment, sometimes the more I'm going to work and figure it out, right? And that is exactly what happened for me. Was
I agree with that
so
100%.
yeah, that's why I kind of want to lead into is, you know, when you got the Z and you got a higher payment, what did that do for you? Of course, you worked, you had the military, right? But you got to make extra income. So did that push you to drive to make more income, to get more business, or the higher payment for the car?
Yes and no. The payment itself wasn't actually that bad, but the insurance at 20 years old was
Yeah,
not friendly.
that's true.
So the insurance was just as much as the car payment was. I was
Oh,
paying 350 a
shoot.
month for each.
That's
Like 350 for the car
crazy.
payment, 350 for insurance.
Wow.
So and I was also dailying the car, so like it did definitely force me to one, like cut back on expenses. Not that I had a lot. In the
Right, right.
military, you don't.
Yeah, yeah.
You have food covered, you have a place to live. Like I've lived in the dorms. So like, yeah, what else was I gonna spend my money on? I was the
Right.
car guy, you know? I didn't go out to eat all the time. I didn't do all that. So like naturally it wasn't too bad, but I definitely put myself in terrible financial position from that car. Largely because of the mods.
Oh,
Oh, I was
okay.
still modding it and oh yeah, it was dumb.
You got to get that itch out.
So
You know, you
dumb.
got to do it.
Yeah, like when I tell my wife about that car phase, she's like, "You are so stupid." And I'm like,
That's
"Yeah,
funny.
I know."
That's funny. Hey, you got the taste. Not many 20 year olds get to drive a Z and mod it, so you got a taste of what that's like,
That's true.
you know?
Yeah,
So
100%.
that's cool. I didn't get a car that I really wanted that was two door till I was like 28, 29. It was FRS. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is it, you know?
Yeah, those are fun, dude.
Before that was like little Hondas, but a Z,
Been
that's
there.
real. Yeah, yeah,
I've had Hondas.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I missed those Honda days. But okay, cool. So you're in the military. I see here you were a social media manager at a Nissan dealership.
Yes.
Was that where you bought the Z from? Because it was in New
That is
Mexico.
actually the same dealership, believe
Okay.
it or not. But this was when I started doing their content was years into my business. Like I had already been
Oh.
like at this point, it had to like grown so much that it's like I almost I'm not sure if you want to like go more into like the beginning or
Yeah, yeah.
because like
Because
we
I thought
just
that was the
jumped.
beginning kind of in
Oh
that.
no, that was like beginning of like my social media work for other people. For sure it was there, but like there's like a huge progression.
Okay, so take me.
I
So
don't know
you're,
if you want to.
yeah, I want to, because so obviously we talked about passion before it even became a business, right?
Uh-huh.
Which is important for a lot of businesses. So now you're at these car meets and you get your first taste of the fact that you can make money off of this, right? So
Pay for the gas
what
to
about
get
your,
there.
yeah, pay for your gas, yeah. So how did you end up, you know, getting more clients? Was it, and all the friends that got pictures for free, did you start saying, hey man, I can't do it for free, I'm gonna be charging this? Like, was that
I
transition?
did actually, yeah. I definitely had to start transitioning to the point where I'm like, well, yeah, like at this point the photos are getting better. I'm increasing my skill throughout this
Right.
whole time. That's like a key factor I always tell people. It's like you can't just increase your prices, right? You can only increase your prices when the skill, or at least the perceived skill, is matched,
Right.
right? So I was always increasing my skill all the time. I was like watching photography stuff, how to learn color and stuff better, right? Like all of this stuff. And eventually I'm like, okay, yeah, like the photos are good enough that I should at least be charging. I
Yeah.
think my most expensive shoot was like $60 for like a good year. Almost a year straight.
You only charged 60 back
Oh
then?
yeah, and I was giving like 45, 50 photos too probably. So I was
And
like a
was it just
dollar a
because you
photo.
didn't really know the market and like what other people were
I
charging?
just didn't know that I didn't. I just like I said, it's still really I hadn't fully switched to that business mentality yet. That was literally my first taste of like, well, this can help me pay for car parts, you know? That's essentially what it was.
I see. I
So
see.
so like I would say the first transition really was I started to like take it a little bit more serious about 2 years, 2.5 years into like doing photography. I was starting to get good. I was like, you know, finally at that part where I'm like jumping over $100. And that if anyone else is watching this and you've like done photography or anything, you know that like jumping from under $100 to over $100 for your photo shoots is incredibly hard
Yeah.
because you will lose almost everyone.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know why. It's just that that 3-digit number is somehow way higher than than $80, even though, or $90.
Right, right, yeah.
So there's a big mental shift of like, you have to like push your prices higher if the skill matches it, and then find new clients.
Interesting.
Or hopefully the people that support you then move over, but a lot of them won't. So I moved up to that point where I was there, and I really started to like stagnate because like I thought I was the shit. Dude, it's the worst thing. It's the worst thing you can ever do. Is like
Okay.
start to think, oh, I'm so good at what I do. There's nothing else even to learn. You know, dude, I had that mentality. Like
Oh,
I'm
wow.
like, well, I feel like my photos are as good as they're ever gonna get. Like I don't even know how I got that in my
Oh,
head.
wow.
People were starting to pay me. Like I said, like it was like a weird ego shift that I needed to get over for sure. And I
Wow.
did. Um, but I met my wife. This was about 3 years in
Okay.
to like photography at this point. I met my wife, and well, she was obviously a girlfriend first.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and it wasn't long into our relationship that I realized pretty heavily that I was decreasing in skill with my photography.
Oh, wow.
I was not putting as much time into it. I wasn't trying to learn. I wasn't actively trying to improve on photo shoots. I was just coasting, charging $100, $150 per shoot. Wasn't going anywhere. I was hardly getting clients. Some weekends I wouldn't shoot at all, and it was like stressing me out big time.
Were you
Like I
doing
said,
this full time or were you still in the
I'm
military?
still in the military. So
Okay.
still military, but like the photography for how happy it made me when I wasn't shooting, it made me extremely depressed. Like hated my life. Like I'd be like alone on the weekend, and I'd be like sad and stuff because like I'm not doing what
Doing
I
what you
love,
love.
you
Right,
know?
right.
So I I I sat down. I think we were still just dating at the time, but I told her, I'm like, I really hope you understand me in this, but like I need to stop spending so much time on you. And that's a really hard thing to say to any
Right.
woman.
Yeah, yeah.
But I made her realize and show her like how much that the photography meant to me, and that like this is my meaning in life, right?
Right, yeah.
So I made that very, very clear to her. And I'm like, it's not that I don't want to spend time with you, it's that I cannot be distracting myself from what I know is my actual calling.
Mm,
So this is where the huge mental shift switched. I was already putting in so many hours and like long nights and stuff before this for years.
right.
However, I started to switch to like, I need to start learning how to make this successful, how to make this into a business,
Mm,
right? And charging $100,
no,
that's not a business.
no. Right.
So I really started to like do research on YouTube, like try to find like entrepreneurs. I found Andy Frisella. I've listened to his podcast like since 2020, even before this happened.
Oh,
But
wow.
like even hearing his stuff and what he talks about and the entrepreneurial tips he gives and stuff, like just heavily pushed me to like really go all in and be like, I need to be learning all the time, pushing my skills, my challenging myself socially, all of that. So I really went ham
That's
right
big.
there.
That's really big. A little bit to unpack because, so first off, I'm sorry, your wife's name is
You can refer to her as Liz. It's
Liz.
easier.
Okay, Liz. What's her real name?
Litzy.
Leetsy?
Yeah.
That's
She
cool.
owns a nail salon here in
Yeah. Shout out to
here in
Nail
Mesa,
Salon.
by the way.
Okay, great. Yeah, yeah.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, there. Please, please. Okay, so first of all, that's a cool name. Where's she from? What that name?
She's from Mexico.
Okay,
So
cool.
born and raised there until she was 12 years old, and then moved to Texas for a year, and then ended up New Mexico the
Mexico.
rest,
Right.
and that's where we met.
You guys met. Okay.
Yeah.
So how did Liz take you saying that? Obviously, it went well because you guys are still together.
Yes and
But
no. I mean, it's especially for the phase we were in, we were both very head over heels for each other.
right, right, yeah,
We were
yeah.
hanging out all the time. I think she maybe even moved in with me already. Like
Okay.
after 3 months, I think we moved in together.
That's awesome.
So we were already living together, and this was extremely hard for her to hear because she took it, at least the initial. This is why I mean, like, I had to really show her like what it meant and not what she was feeling because of the way I said it.
Yeah.
She was feeling that it meant like I didn't really want to be around her, and like I'm just tired of her, stuff like that, right?
Right.
Like it's very easy to perceive that.
Yeah.
So it wasn't taken very easily.
Yeah.
But I just like had to reassure her like, hey, I still love you. I still want to be with you. It's just that I need to focus on this because otherwise I have no meaning inside.
Yeah.
I
That
can
means
have
a lot.
external meaning, and that's great.
Right.
It is. It's awesome. But you also have to have an internal meaning.
Yeah.
And that's what I told her I needed to pursue it heavier,
It's
focus on it.
not it's not an easy task, right? And other people might see this as, oh yeah, he just told his girlfriend at the time the truth, but you have so much going on, and you're kind of like headstrong focused on trying to build this business. You fall in love, and you get a little distracted, and you kind of want to get back onto pace, but
Yeah.
you could lose her, or you could lose the business. So now you're at this like fork in the road, and you're going to try making it work.
Yeah.
And that isn't easy. So, and yourself, I don't want to be all cheesy, but your self love, or you care about yourself so much
Oh, 100%.
that you would bring this up to her, right?
Well, I
What?
knew I needed to.
Right.
I knew
Okay.
it would be more detrimental for the relationship if I didn't do what I was meant to do, as opposed to the initial feeling. And that's something like going back to like my father and stuff, that's how I was raised. I was raised on like hard truths because at the end of the day, they build you more. They hurt you maybe immediately
Right.
in the short term,
Right.
but long term, they make you realize and learn so much more. And I that's kind of how I had to be, and I knew that like that's who I am and that's how I am. So I needed to show her that like this is a hard truth I'm telling you right now, and it's going to be hard to like take that in, but I knew it was necessary. And those are the hardest conversations to have, like you said.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, where does that come from? And you answered it, which is your dad. So, you grew up with your dad telling you hard truths, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And, do you remember some of those truths being told you as a kid, and feeling those feelings? Like, it probably wasn't easy,
Yeah.
Can you recall some of those things?
Uh, I mean, some stuff like the pressure to like participate in sports and stuff like that. Like some of them I didn't like,
Okay.
and yet I felt extremely pressured to do them.
Okay.
And I know he was doing it so that I could become a better person, so I
Right.
can learn teamwork, I can learn discipline, be healthy, all of this stuff, right? Is
Right.
important for kids to
Yeah.
learn. Um, but I eventually had to get to a point where I was also individualistic enough and confident enough to tell him, hey, I don't want to do these sports. And not all of them.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
still did sports after that. But there was some that I just straight up did not like. I did not enjoy them anymore. And I was only really doing them to appease my dad.
Wow.
So like eventually I had to like, I mean, I'd go up to him bawling. I mean, I'm like, Dad, I don't want to do it no more. Like if he watches this, he'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Like I didn't want to do football. I was too skinny for football. I was getting just clobbered by everyone. And then baseball, I could never get over my fear of hitting.
Really?
I was a good fielder, all that. I played catcher some too, and I felt confident in all of that. But I could not get over my fear of the ball, like
I don't
hitting.
blame. I played
So
baseball too as a kid. That ball's coming fast. You know what I
especially
mean?
when you get to high school.
Oh, I can't even
That's what I'm
imagine.
saying. Like
Yeah.
after first year of high school, I was done. I was like, I can't.
Okay. So I guess you cared even then as a child, you cared about yourself so much and how you felt about things. Sure, you came to your dad crying and bawling about the truth, but he obviously instilled that you got to tell the truth in you. That
Yeah,
you got to a point where you wanted to tell the truth for yourself to your dad,
100%.
right? Which is great, but not easy,
No.
right? So how did your dad take those truths? What, for instance, the one about not wanting to do sports,
I don't really remember him reacting in a bad way. It's so long ago, I don't necessarily recall precisely.
right?
He was always supportive. Like I said, he was really good at being understanding of what I wanted, and my sister too. Um, and I think it's because he knew that we wouldn't just say something just out of emotion, but it's also like this doesn't feel good. Like we don't
Right.
like this.
Yeah, yeah,
So it wasn't like, I don't know. He always supported it. Like at first it was like, well, what else are you gonna do?
yeah.
But like I also, had the desire to like work and do
Right.
stuff like that
It
too.
wasn't like you
So
just want to play video games all day at home.
I did play a lot of video games as a kid, so
Same.
I won't even go there.
There's a
but
PlayStation right here. So,
yeah, I will say like I did play a lot of video games, but it's just one of those things. Like I think as a father or a parent in general, like you probably care more about your child's happiness than what you want as an adult or as a parent, I should say.
I see what you're saying.
So I think that's where he like found that middle ground of like realizing, okay, like he just wants to be able to feel happy in what he's doing.
Yeah.
He doesn't enjoy it anymore.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I'm glad your dad was able to, some stories are not like that, but at least he was able to find that and meet you guys in the middle. So fast forward, I guess, now it's in your life as far as telling truth. You have this moment of telling Liz at the time, your girlfriend at the time, like, hey, I got to tell you this, like, I got to, So fast forward a little bit further, you're in business. And you're going to have to tell yourself the truth. Like, you told her, I got to spend more time in the business. You're declining. How much of telling yourself the truth in business, how much does that play a role in your life? Like, sometimes people don't tell themselves the truth and they live their lives that way, but how big of a role does telling yourself the truth in business play a role?
Oh, tons. I had to do a serious self audit of how terrible I actually was at what I did. I had to seriously like look at, okay, this is the experience that my clients are having. What am I doing wrong? And like really unpacking that, but like not only what am I doing wrong, but why am I at fault? Because it's very easy for I would say let's just go. This is a bold statement here. Non-entrepreneurs, they tend to push blame on other people. I
Fair.
think that's a skill as entrepreneurs that we learn or we have to learn in order to have any ounce of success, because otherwise you will never ever self audit the right way. You might be looking at like, well, why is my business not doing good? But if your mind always goes to it's how they're doing it or that what
Right.
they're doing and oh, my clients are this or the people out in the market are like this,
Yeah.
nah.
Yeah. I've
It's
seen that time and time again.
always you.
Yeah.
Always you, and that's the hard part. So
Yeah.
I had to really unpack like what are my downfalls, what are things I'm lacking on, how is the experience, what are things I can improve on. So like I think at that point was where I actually made it a mission of mine, like a specific goal of like I want to have the best rollers, like the best rollers in the state. That was my goal. It was
Cool.
like I want to have the best rollers in New Mexico. I want to be known for that, and that's what I want as well. So that means I'm gonna have to then put it into packages and get as much practice as I can for next to nothing, so that I could get that necessary practice. That's the ego thing. I had to set my ego to the side of making all that money because I was passionate about making it happen. That goal.
Right.
So that's something that without that passion, why would you ever take less money?
Right.
Knowing, oh well, yeah, I could double my shoot price to do rollers as well.
Right.
But no, I just added it in so that I could learn as much as possible. And I'm not gonna say I didn't charge anything, but it
Right.
was
Yeah. Yeah.
so little that it was basically a freebie
Yeah.
for the people who were shooting
Whoever's,
with
yeah.
me.
That's interesting. So you're willing to get the experience for, well, experience is more important than anything else, right? Screw the money. You got the experience, that's what matters
Yeah.
most. And you were willing to drop your prices there.
Well, the money follows that.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
follows the experience.
Yes.
So if I don't have the experience, how can I charge the money?
It's true.
So I
It's
think
true.
I really realized that, and that was when I really started to like, yeah, I mean, I started to get good at it, and I really put in a lot of hours. And I think it was maybe a year after that was where I like, I was at the point then when like I had a lot of people saying your work's just too expensive. I can't afford that.
Yeah.
Before I would even tell them a price, and I'm like, I took it as a compliment, but I was also confused at first. I didn't know where that was coming from. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I haven't even told you how much it is. They're like, well, your work's just so good. And I'm like, okay, like, I appreciate that, but
Right.
like, I haven't even told you a price.
Right.
So how are you going to know if you can afford it or not?
Yeah.
So like the attribution, I started to notice the attribution with where the skill level was and what the perceived value was higher than what I was asking.
Interesting.
And when you realize that as an entrepreneur, that's where you have to start charging more.
Right.
Is because if you realize the perceived value is higher than where you're at, then you should be charging more.
Yeah. You're
Just
leaving
to
money on the
match that.
table. Yeah.
To match that. And then keep raising that bar of perceived value.
Right.
Always.
Yeah.
Because if you're not, then yeah, you are going to start declining. Again.
Yeah. The good thing about the business that you have and that industry you're in is the work gets to speak for itself, right? It's like that end product, no matter what happens in between to the finish line, that product speaks for itself. Because like you said, your photos are posted, people want to work with you based on your end product.
For debate there, though, I actually will go into this. I actually strongly disagree with you on that.
Really?
Product is great, but I think we have all worked with someone who had a great product, but the experience was not good.
Agreed.
And I would say that the experience is actually far more important than the product.
Yeah.
So that's why I that's something I had to shift my mindset to, was like, yeah, my work could always be better,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
hypothetically. But at a certain point, where do I need to increase the experience that they're having, both with communication times, turnaround time, how they feel with me at the shoot,
True.
how they feel like if they feel like they could go grab a beer or dinner with me afterwards. Like if they don't feel like that, then they're probably not going to want to work with you again.
Yeah. That's
So
actually
so
big.
that's something that I heavily pushed into, was experience.
Yeah.
I'm like, my product can get better, of course. But I learned that in business, 90% of it, like, or a huge, huge percentage, is the experience.
Yeah.
Because you're selling largely on that,
Yep.
is who you are, what you stand for, how they feel around you, like all
That's the
that stuff.
truth.
So I don't mean to like completely contradict what you're saying, because I
No,
do agree.
I agree with
It
you.
does speak for itself,
Right.
but there's also that back end and the network and the people who know you and how they've experienced things with you. That speaks volumes.
Yeah. It's the truth.
Volumes. Because you might not ever even see my work, but if you know, well, my buddy said I had this type of experience with him, he don't even need to look at your work.
Right.
And then when he goes and looks at your work, he's like, oh yeah, this guy
Ah,
is.
dang. You
No,
got
that's what
over
I'm
it.
saying. Like
Yeah,
that's
I agree.
there's more benefit, I think, to the experience, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's just with my experience
I
personally.
agree. Do you? I've got an Apple Watch. You have an iPhone. I got a MacBook. Have a MacBook here.
Mm-hmm.
Apple is all about the experience. Like you don't just
Mm-hmm.
buy an iPhone at the store. You go through a whole experience
Mm-hmm.
of getting the iPhone, and then your journey of using the iPhone is all an experience, right?
Yeah.
So I come from Apple, so I understand like their cult like following as far as working for them and the experience of working for them. Like they
Okay.
actually preach about experience. So I
Yeah.
agree with you. But their product
Their product
is
also
amazing.
backs it up.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly. So
100%.
you know, I like that. Yeah, you can have the output and the product be amazing, but you really want to heavily focus on your customer service, your sales ability, and the experience. And I don't think about that, right? Like if I hired somebody to shoot a video for my car,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna think, oh, I text the guy, shows up there, whatever, shoots the video, and I get the final product. But there's a whole communication funnel. There's
Oh, yeah.
delivering the product to the person, asking the right questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
100%.
and once you put yourself into that world of fixing that customer service and experience, what happened to the business? Like, how did that help you guys?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'll go out there and say it. I am not the best videographer. Hell no. I won't even try to say it. But I do deliver a damn good experience. And that's not, I'm not trying to sound cocky in that, but I'm trying to say that in the sense of like, I don't think that you literally need to have the world's best product in order to be doing good business. It's not that my product is bad.
Right.
I don't believe that, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise, I don't know why I would. I don't know why I would try to even be in this business.
Right.
But when I, like you said, like the process beforehand, I emphasize heavily on before that, right? Like I'm always like qualifying. I'm asking, what's your vision? How do you foresee this happening, right? Because I want to be able to deliver something that the client actually wants. Whereas if they're like, yeah, I want a 40-second video, I'm like, okay, sweet, it's $500. And then I deliver them something completely different than they pictured
Yeah.
because I didn't ask them anything.
Right. Right.
I did them a disservice.
Yeah.
I might as well have just taken their money,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, that product could look good.
Yeah.
But if it's not really what they want, then you're selling them something that they don't need.
Totally, totally, totally agree.
And
Again,
that's immoral.
that I agree with you. I think that I just reflecting on myself on that instance because I don't do videography and photography full time. Like I have other things I do, but I was asked to shoot a market. Like a little like they were selling clothes and it's a bunch of girls that have clothes that they want to sell, and I was shooting that, right. And in this instance they're like, how much would you do it for? I was like, I don't know, I'm just $500, just do it. I didn't ask the questions. I didn't say, what are you looking for? Were they happy with the outcome? Sure, it's a great video and
Yeah.
pictures that I took, but I didn't ask the questions. I didn't see what they wanted.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, maybe my product would be a little inferior to yours because you're like full time, but at least the experience would be there for them. Right.
Yeah.
And so I totally agree that your experience is very, if not equal to the product, But if you put more time into your experience, especially in business, I've been in roofing, I'm still in roofing, I'm still in solar, and experience trumps, like people will pay more
Oh yeah.
for a better experience, not just a great roof or a
Yeah.
great solar system, but for the experience, the customer service.
Think about, I'm going to back off that again, or not back off, piggyback on that, I should say. Think about a high-end restaurant. When you go to a high-end restaurant, it's not necessarily that the food is that much better.
It's true.
Not always. I've
Right.
actually had plenty of the opposite of that
Yeah.
in my own experience. I
Same.
don't really frequent high-end restaurants.
Right.
I'm not a believer of that really too much, at least at this point in my life. But there's been high-end nice restaurants I've gone to and the customer service was booty. And I never go back.
Right.
I'm like, yeah, the food was good. I ain't never going back there though.
It's true.
Hell no, I'm not paying that kind of money for that.
Yeah.
So especially if you're paying premium prices, or at least what is perceived as a premium price, you expect a premium service.
Yeah.
That's something that I realized as well, was like when I was like really coming up in like what my business knowledge was, I'm like analyzing businesses like Lamborghini, Louis Vuitton.
Yeah.
They make sure that you feel like you're their customer. Does that make sense? Like
Yep.
you are theirs, you're there with them, you are getting the special attention that you want and
Yep.
that you need.
Yep.
And that's exactly how I want all my clients to feel. And that's the only way that you can really genuinely charge a premium price for anything.
Right.
Because I could sell you a bottle of water, right? If this had no label on it, how much would you say this bottle of water is worth? If it had no label at all, nothing.
$1.
$1? Okay. How much is a Fiji water?
Freaking stupid. Like $4.
Exactly. They're selling an experience because it's a natural spring water from Fiji.
Right. Yeah.
That's the experience they're selling.
It's true.
But how do I know that it's any different than this?
Yeah.
Other than maybe the taste is a tiny bit different.
So would you say marketing is pretty important, obviously?
Yeah, I would say marketing's pretty important. Breaking
I
the
mean,
fifth
yeah,
wall.
yes, that makes perfect sense.
I would say yes, and like I learned that from learning marketing.
Right, yeah.
Is marketing is what sells the experience though.
Yes.
Because if maybe I did source that water from Fiji, but if I don't tell anybody about it, that water's worth $1 still.
Yeah.
No one cares.
Right.
So they're selling that experience through commercials, marketing, even just the label on it is marketing. So like if they don't have that though, they're not selling any experience.
It's true.
You can't sell something that doesn't have a story.
Right.
And that water has a story. This Trader's Joe, I mean, Natural Mountain Spring Water, okay, like, yeah, maybe I believe that.
Right.
But where's the story? I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Trader
True.
Joe's hasn't ever made a commercial that said this is where our water is sourced.
It's funny because I forget that's your world. Like your world is to literally take a business, find the story, extract it through video and photos. Like that's your job. Like that's your
That's
business.
what I've transitioned to for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I've seen your work. It's really good. You did a job for like a plane company.
Yeah. Private parts aviation.
Yes, that's what. Yeah,
Well,
aviation.
private parts. Private aviation parts. Let's switch those words around.
That's funny.
I have a blooper reel.
Yeah,
I can't
yeah.
even English now.
Bleeper reel. That's funny. No, it was a really good video, and I'm sure you broke down the company, you broke down the
Oh,
understanding.
100%.
You didn't just show up and just shoot video.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
That's actually one of the highest productions we've done. Like it is very, very planned out, both ahead of time, before like pre-production on my end, my team's end, like filming with 2 people, light setups, interviews, interview questions.
Yep.
All that stuff, and like making sure that it aligns with the story that they want to tell.
Yep.
Because you don't know how many people could be seeing this on their website.
Yeah. And it's there forever. Yeah, I was just about to say. Forever. Yes.
So as long as they want to use that video and that's what their company stands for, they get tremendous value out of a video like that.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing that like people are like, well, how could you charge that much? Like I've quoted people 3,000-4,000 and they're like, how? And I'm like, this is a video that will bring you potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like
Right.
as many people as view it, the more people that believe in your product
Yeah.
or your brand, right? Who
Right.
you are, what you do.
Yep.
So it's like you don't know how infinitely valuable that could be because someone might not just click quote right below it.
Yep.
But it's the fact that now they know, even if they click off, they know what you're about, what you stand for.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they're ready or they hear someone that's ready for that, that they want that,
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's
easy
amazing.
referral.
Like the video could be a minute or 30 seconds, or it doesn't matter how long it is.
Yep.
But what's crazy to me with someone that does this professionally is the amount of work that goes in, hours of work that goes into a 30-second, 1 minute video is pretty crazy, right?
Oh,
Like the
yeah.
professionals that do this in the industry spend time creating a script and the camera angles, all that goes in, and the customer or the client that watches the video gets to enjoy a 30-second video, but they little do they know you spent hours upon hours to
Yeah.
create that.
Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, there's, and that's the thing too, is like, I always tell people, like, you're not ever delivering post production, pre production. You're not delivering that. You don't need to tell them. If you need to tell them that it's that you're planning this all out, then you're already doing something wrong because they don't believe in your product enough.
Right.
So if they're like, well, why is it this much? And they want you to break it down, it's because they partially don't believe that what you're doing is valuable enough for what you're asking.
Right.
So, and I mean, you're coming from the sales world, you know that that's how it works.
Yep.
It always has to be the other way. The value, perceived value, has to be higher than the asking price,
Yep.
or they'll never buy it.
It's true.
So those videos that I sold for $1,500, $2,000, like their perceived value could have been way higher. They could have been like, well, yeah, I got quoted by a guy who was 5,000,
Right.
and he seems like exactly the same as you. So why would I, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So his perceived value wasn't higher than that 5,000 though.
Right.
So there's a lot that goes into it, and you can never explain that really.
Yep.
Because if you have to, or if you try to, you probably already need to backtrack.
Backtrack, yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I like that. We did some training on sales, and you understand that your pricing is going to go higher over time, and you'll have clients that drop off. But what I'm learning, being in a world with other business owners in this area, it's like they all just look for the biggest tickets, and they look for those clients, and then they just try getting as many of those as they can. And I'm not used to that. I'm used to, back where I'm from in Tampa, Florida, like, selling a few deals here or there, making a few $1,000s per deal. But I'm around guys that are making millions of dollars on one deal, on things, doesn't matter what, real estate, commercial roofing, solar, doesn't matter. And they just do one or two or three a month or a year. And, it's just a different life, right? And what I'm saying for you is like, there are people who do what you do at like the lower to mid tier, right? But I can see that you really want to be like a creme de la creme of what you do, and your pricing is going to reflect that.
100%.
And I'm sure you're getting to a point where you're so busy that you might be turning away clients, and you got to stick to the ones that are going to pay what you're asking for.
Even when I wasn't making money, I was turning away some clients. And the reason why is because it's kind of like what I said about like the fact that it's immoral selling. I think that's something, another bold statement. Here in Arizona, there are a lot of people immorally selling. A lot of people. They'll sell to anyone and everyone because they want to get their money.
Right.
I don't come from that kind of background. I believe that if you're going to do business, you got to do it right.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't immorally sell. So like I have turned down people that I'm like, I just can't really help you. It's not my thing.
Yeah.
I'm not in that world. I don't understand it. Sometimes, like if there are people in different niches that I'm not extremely familiar with, I make it clear to them that I'm not a professional in that niche.
Yeah.
And that I am really good at making videos, and I can make you really good videos, but the expertise and the knowledge will have to come from that person.
Right.
In terms of how to deliver the message, because I could know how to deliver a message to car guys.
Right.
It doesn't mean I'm going to know how to deliver, I guess anything else, I mean,
a coffee restaurant or
Yeah.
a coffee shop.
yeah,
like,
coffee shop,
Yeah,
for
yeah.
example. Like, but I, have even gone as far as, delivering the message to young women who want to go to my wife's salon.
I was just about to
You
bring
know what
that
I mean?
up.
Like,
Yeah.
I've figured that out, but also, this. It's not that it can't happen. It's just like that stuff takes a lot of time
Yeah.
and then practice too of failing.
Yeah.
We've put out ads last year for my wife that did nothing. Cost us a lot of money, my time, her time, didn't get any results.
Yeah, I want to jump into that actually because I was just thinking about your wife and the business, and you guys are a power couple, in entrepreneurs. You guys are,
We get
taking
that sometimes.
risks. Some couple, and again, there's nothing wrong with trying to find a safe job and making money and retiring when you're 65. It's just not something I want to do. It's something that sounds like you guys don't want to do. But
Nope.
talk to me a little bit about your wife's background. You don't have to go too far into it. Was she entrepreneur before, or did you kind of rub off into her and wanting to start her own business?
Both.
Oh,
A
okay.
little bit. So her mom sold clothes growing up.
Okay.
Like that was what she did for a living. And her mom actually made a lot more money than her dad. Her dad was a police officer
Oh,
in
wow.
Mexico. So yes and no, not really enough where like she didn't learn anything about it. She was just kind of a little bit around it.
Okay.
And that was all up until she was 12. So like how much of that stuff you really remember?
Right.
Probably
Yeah.
not much.
Not much. Right.
Um, but I would say, yeah, I mean, we talk about it often is like, and she knows, she realizes it too, is like, I'm so glad that you were there to push me because when I met her, she was working in a glasses place, like selling glasses.
Oh,
Like
really?
her extra commissions for selling over $1,000 would be like $10. And I'm like, what a joke.
That's robbery.
Yeah, no, and I was like, what a joke. I'm
Yeah.
like I'm surprised I didn't even think about it. I'm like, you should have just gone and sold cars.
Mm-hmm.
You would have made a killing selling cars because she was always the best salesman there, which is funny because she doesn't even like sales. Like I try to
Usually
teach
the
her
best
sales stuff and
salespeople are,
she
yeah.
hates it.
The best salespeople I've met are usually the ones that don't even care or like sales.
Yeah, genuinely. But I guess long story short, right? Like she was doing this job and I could tell she wasn't satisfied with how much money she made. She didn't like the job. She didn't like working for somebody.
Right.
She had been for like on the side here and there, like since she was like 15, she was painting faces, like face painting
Cool.
for like parties, whatever, right? They had their own little business name, a little Facebook page where they would post pictures. It was her and her dad for
Okay.
years. When I met her, she wasn't doing it with her dad anymore. Her dad worked too much, didn't have the time, right? Didn't have I think the desire either, really,
Right.
to do it. And so she started doing that a little bit more. And I remember when I had like first been with her to one of the parties, she was charging $30 an hour. That was good money from what she was making before. She was making maybe $20 an hour at the glasses place when you add it all up.
Right.
But she was slinging glasses. So 20
Yeah.
bucks an hour is crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy work.
Right.
So she was charging like $30 an hour doing these face paintings and she would maybe do one a week, sometimes two, like because like on the weekends is when parties happen.
Yep.
So she would be doing like two or three max, right? Like sometimes there'd be a party during the day and we'd go to another one.
Yeah.
But like I remember like pushing her to go to that and she liked it and she was making more money. I actually told her like keep raising your prices. Like if people are paying it, raise your prices. She got up to a point where she was at 50 an hour, right? Not long after that because her
Wow.
work was good.
Right.
Everyone there knew her for face painting.
Cool.
She would go to a party and she would already have another gig by the end of the night
That's too
because
cool.
there's so many, it's so connected. It's
Yeah,
such a
yeah, yeah.
small world, especially in that Latino community
Oh,
for
yeah.
the parties and the
100%.
fiestas and
True.
stuff. Like that's that community, right?
Yeah.
So she just didn't like it. It was so stressful for her. It was like a
Okay.
lot of work with like trying to keep the kids still, the
Oh,
parents. I mean,
jeez. Yeah.
communicating with the parents, being at a loud party.
Tear
So
tear down
eventually,
setups. Yeah.
yeah, eventually, well, the setup was super simple, thank God. But essentially, she's like, yeah, I don't really like it enough to like do it full time, and like it would be really difficult because there's not parties all the time. Like you would have to like kind of change the business.
Right.
So she started like kind of analyzing what she was gonna do. She ended up like working as a dental assistant. Really quickly, she realized she hated that as well.
Okay.
And in that time, while she was realizing she disliked it, she was like, well, I don't know, maybe like, I don't know, doing hair or like nails or something. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, yeah, it seems like it's up your alley. I knew nothing about that world back
Right,
then.
yeah.
I mean, I'm coming from the Midwest, dude. Women barely get their nails done.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So I told her, I'm like, yeah, I don't know, like go for it, right? Like if you want to do it, I would support that, but like I want to see you like go all in because that meant that I was now pretty much sole provider.
Mm.
I was the one taking care of all the bills, which I already was largely of
Right.
my own bills
Right.
because we were still new to like moving in and being together. But yeah, I mean, I pushed her to do it, and like throughout the like first 2 or 3 years, I would say like 2 years, because we're at about 3 years now of her doing it. First 2 years of her doing it, like I had to like keep telling her like, do not listen to your parents. They don't know what you're capable of.
Wow.
Like I genuinely like straight up told her, I'm like, you have something that 90% of other people don't have, and you don't need to have people telling you that it's not the right way or this isn't the right move.
Mm.
And she had a lot of people telling her that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was always there telling her, no, like this has potential. This has growth to it. I see the work you're putting in. You're really dedicated. You're passionate about it. Dude, there was times where I would be up, I would get home from work, be editing in my like living room, editing on the TV back then. And she would be doing like her friend's nails, like she would charge like 30, $40. And she would be there from like 4 p.m. until like midnight doing one set of nails because she was learning. And all of her friends wanted these crazy extravagant sets.
Right.
So she just dove head first basically into a pile of cement.
Experience.
Like, had to.
Yeah.
So like, but I saw that and I like just piggybacked off of that. I'm like, you really like you do have the work ethic and the desire for it. You need to go in on this. So
That's crazy.
she worked in the corner of my 1 bedroom apartment, the corner, like literally a table like as small as that, for
That's crazy.
like this more or less.
Yeah.
For like a year. We moved on to base. Then she worked out of my garage on base.
Wow.
Was trying to get people in base, which is a pain in the ass if you've
Yeah.
ever done
I
that.
lived by McDill Air Force Base in Tampa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was there, and then after that, she worked out of her parents' laundry room. We like remodeled it to be like a nails room, but it's like basically me and you sitting here, and then like walls.
Wow.
So
Wow. Yeah, because right now
put in a lot of work.
I only seen what you've posted, which is, and we kind of met when you got the store.
That's true.
You know, and the windows. You guys put some stuff up. So to know the history, I think what I find fascinating is one, you were the voice of like truth for her, right? That was me for my wife for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I come from a cultural background, Filipino. Family was telling me, you shouldn't be doing that. You need to go do this. That's
I
not
think
what
it's
you
all families, all cultures.
True.
They
Very
just
true.
want to protect us.
That's true. That's
It's
fair
their,
enough.
it's their sole job.
Yeah.
So therefore, their opinion on it will always be what's to protect you, not what's actually always best for you, though.
That's true.
That's the hard part.
Yeah, and I will have to say like risk isn't averse for some families, right? So
Yeah.
especially Filipinos, like it's not like I get that all families do, but especially when you're coming from families that come from a third world country to come to America, it's like you focus on finding the
Yeah.
safest job
Yeah.
ever, right? So you being able to help her focus on, I'm sure that was a struggle for her, but like you getting her to take more risks and more risks to get to where we're at today. What I find fascinating is you both live in this world, like of taking risk and relying on your capabilities and skill sets to take care of your livelihood.
100%.
It's not a common thing to find, right? Most couples nowadays both have jobs, or one's has a business and one person has a job and is supporting the business, and maybe it's not doing so great, and that causes strife within a relationship.
100%.
But you guys are thriving,
Well, and the fact that we both run businesses has caused strife.
yeah, well, true.
Because
That's
we're
true.
both. It's like hard. We always have to like level ourselves out because we're building both our own things. Whereas I think a lot of entrepreneurial couples you see, a lot of them build one thing together.
Yes. Absolutely.
Whereas like my passion and what I do is not my wife's passion. So it's like I wouldn't naturally expect her to, but I also don't really have a passion for hers. So it would be hard to fully go into hers, even if hers makes more money.
Right,
Or
right.
mine does too,
Yeah.
or whatever, right? Whatever
Yeah.
way it goes. So there is, I mean, it's always a balance, dude. It's with two people running two different things with two very different goals in mind, it is difficult.
Yeah.
It's extremely difficult. But
Yeah.
I think the biggest risk, I know you didn't ask this, but I'm gonna tell it because I think this is very important. The biggest risk I ever took was believing in myself enough to completely leave an entire network I had built for 5.5 years in Albuquerque doing photography work, doing video work, social media work for that Nissan dealership, leaving all of that behind, knowing that I'm relying just on my skill and my ability to connect and network with people to try and build a business in a world that I know has more potential, which
Wow.
is here.
Right, right, yeah.
This place is just, the automotive industry here is massive. I knew the skill cap would be much, much higher,
Yeah,
yet it would also be much, much harder,
right,
more saturated. Nobody knows me. Like, and
right,
same for her. Her
right.
business too. All of her network that she built off of was originally from her friends, her family, and then it obviously expanded out. But like, she didn't take any of her network here.
Yeah. They didn't move over here.
No. So like,
Yeah.
all of a sudden, she has a suite that we went in. All like the suite alone was almost as much as our rent
Wow.
for our place to live. So
Wow.
we now we already moved into a more expensive apartment here, and we went and basically doubled that down in terms of expenses with all of that. And we had previously, the last year before that, lived very, very below our means.
Right.
I had a Nissan contract. I was in the military. I worked. I mean, I had already been in for 6 years almost at that point too. So the military pay is not terrible. My wife was also making good money with nails.
Mm.
We lived in a one-bedroom apartment for $1,000 a month in Albuquerque.
Wow.
We were living way below our means.
Yeah.
We took a couple trips here and there because I wanted to use my leave. I'm like, I better go explore the world
Yeah.
a little bit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we went to Mexico. But Mexico is cheap. Anyone who's been to Mexico knows you can ball out and only spend $1,000.
Right. Yeah.
So it's not that bad.
Right.
So like, we lived way below our means, and when we came here, this is part of that risk that added on that stress factor of
Yeah.
now our expenses are basically triple.
Yeah.
Like I joke, I'm not even joking. Like,
That's
over
crazy.
tripled our expenses.
Right.
She had no network, I had no network. For the first 3 months I was here, I made basically $0.
Jeez.
So we're just seeing all this money that we had saved because we were living below our means, and I
Right.
knew this is necessary to have at least some sort of safety net,
Right.
just plummeting,
Yeah.
like literally plummeting for months and months. And even after that third month, like, I made like 2 grand in 1 month.
Jeez.
It's hard to live on 2 grand. I barely paid my rent.
Right.
So it's like, that was the biggest risk I ever took, was just, I think, like you said, that harsh, honest truth of believing in myself enough to take that jump, knowing nothing on the other side. I told my wife when before we moved here, I'm like, I don't know how long it'll take.
Yeah.
I could have success in a month.
Yeah.
I could meet someone and then get a contract, and they might like my work so much, and then it can snowball from there. Or it could take a year. It could take 2 years. I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's still not to where I want it to be, of course. That's why, I mean, I'm probably here because of that. It's in progress. Like,
Right.
all of this is in progress.
Mm-hmm.
But we really realized that, like, we don't know how long it'll take, but we'll make it work.
That's
That,
huge.
I think, is
That's all that
really
matters.
bigger than anything.
Exactly. Yeah. How do you guys deal with, more specifically, how do you deal with the ambiguity? Like, obviously, I did the same thing. I moved to Florida here without knowing anybody to take a risk. But in your standpoint, how do you handle that fear of not knowing the future?
It's a hard one. I guess long story short, there's only one word that comes to mind, is courage. But, and the reason I want to bring this up is because I had the stereotypical, like, canvas of like a lion, right? I feel like every young man who, like,
Yeah.
is desirable and things, like, has that, right?
Right.
But there was something that stood out to me about it. I don't have, like, even a lion tattoo. That's the funny part, right? Or nothing. But the thing that stood out to me is really what the lion is, like, symbolized as, and it's largely around the word courage,
Mm.
right? They're courageous. They're fearless, right? Not necessarily fearless, but courageous, right?
Courage, right.
And I had heard a line once, a quote. I don't remember who it's from, but it was, "There is not courage without fear."
Mm.
It's not that the lion isn't afraid; it's that they still do it even though they are.
Mm.
And that really, I think, is what kind of, and the reason I'm bringing up the canvas is because I ended up taking a toothbrush and bold red paint on a black and white thing and painting that. The thing that says,
Cool.
without fear, there is not courage.
Wow.
Because of what it meant to me. I basically ruined the canvas. But like that lettering and the bold statement of what it is meant way more to me than the actual, the
That's cool.
picture.
Wow.
So like I had that hanging on my wall for years.
You posted a lion today, didn't you, in your stories? Was it you? I saw a story with like a lion reel.
I think so.
That
I
was
think I did
okay.
just post that. And
Yeah.
it was probably something along the same lines.
Right. Yeah.
And
That's cool.
it's crazy how much that stuff pertains to your life. Like you see the quotes online and maybe they're like motivational, but like the reason I post that stuff is because it's like a reminder to myself.
Yeah.
I don't post it necessarily to motivate other people.
Right.
Not necessarily. I mean, that would be great, but it's to remind myself of what I stand for and what I believe in. And but that is also being projected outwards, like
Right.
showing the people what I believe in and what helps me, focus and get through the things that I need to get through.
Yeah.
The trials, the tribulations.
Yeah. Yeah. I obviously we all live in social media world, and I follow people that I find intriguing and want to learn from, and stay connected to. And I don't think I even post not just for everybody. It's really for myself, like you say. Like I post things really for myself. I look at it, I'm like, oh wow, that's me, and doing whatever I'm doing,
Yeah.
right? So what I've learned from you and the stories that you've posted is, and you do take time to talk on stories and tell kind of you know how to peel back. People don't know how to do this, but you know how to
try.
peel back, talk about your current situations in business and life, and provide value through social media. But what I've learned from you is that picture of a lion is like, you may not look like you're afraid to others, and maybe you feel, maybe you feel afraid inside with things, but you don't show others, and you feel like you're not a dad yet, right?
What's that?
You're not a dad yet, right? Like no
Nope,
kids.
just a fur baby.
Just a fur baby, yeah. I would say, venture to say, like when you have kids, if you guys have kids, like you're gonna be that like steadfast dad. You're steadfast. I think that's what I get from you. It's like you're ongoing. You're always focused, and you have a mission, and that's hard to come by nowadays, right? Does that come from the military, or was that something that you like just had?
I don't think it's anything I had actually. Like I said, I was a very
That's
different
right.
person.
Yeah.
I was very afraid of everything. I never wanted to take risks. I never wanted to go. I couldn't talk to girls. I couldn't do this or couldn't do that. I wasn't strong enough. I wasn't this enough. I wasn't smart enough to be that good in school either. Like all of that stuff constantly weighed down on me as a younger individual and younger man. The military largely broke me out of that shell because I realized I can do hard things. This is a hard thing that I put my mind to and that I can do things. So I think that was just the very touch of push that I needed to believe in
That
myself.
makes sense.
Was because before that I just never believed in myself
Wow.
ever. And it was just terrible for me. It would have I would have lived the most shitty life, dude, for lack of better terms. Like
Right.
I would have I would have hated what I did.
Wow.
Like if I had stayed in that mentality. So the military, it did help me gain at least that confidence to become what I am today, but also to believe in myself and then to go and put myself into those other challenges and stuff.
Yeah.
So I would say, yeah, it was just a big transition for me from there.
I like that. Yeah. I guess, well, I'm going to kind of ask you some questions here. We'll start
Yeah.
to land to respect your time. So, you know, these big questions, you kind of answer them as you want. You can go into depth or not. But the first big question is what is, if you have one, your biggest regret?
I think probably back to that thinking I was a shit. That alone. Because it basically stifled a year of my own growth completely, if not even decline. So then you have to grow more just to even get back to where you were. I think that alone, I mean, I think I kind of fell back into my old ways of not believing in myself, or maybe the opposite of that, right? The extreme opposite of that, of
Yeah.
believing I'm so good that I don't need to get better. And I think that just, it really bit me in the ass. I put myself in a bad place emotionally, physically. I wasn't even as fit as I was or as I should have been at the time. I wasn't right mentally. I can tell you that for sure. Finding vices and other things that just shouldn't have been there. And that was probably my biggest regret. Everything else, like I mean, that was, of course, a lesson.
Right.
I don't like to look at anything as a regret because I do believe that taught me something very important
Yeah.
is that never let that happen again.
Yeah.
But that is also a regret at the
Yeah.
same time. Like, I
Right.
wish I didn't do that. Wish I didn't have to do it to learn it,
Yeah.
is what I regret.
I see. Thank you for sharing that. I guess I have a question outside of the ones I have.
Mm-hmm.
Entrepreneurs, like you said, they're very self-reflective, or the ones that grow in business, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they want to strive to do better.
Mm-hmm.
But in my journey, I'm older. I'm 34 now,
Mm-hmm.
and in my 29 to 32, I was striving to build something really big, and I was
Mm-hmm.
pushing, and every day I was focusing on building that big thing,
Yeah.
right? But what I came to learn, and this is from my own journey, that the end goal was never going to be enough. The getting to that end point was actually never going to fulfill what I was feeling inside. I was never content. So my question to you is, how do you handle that? Or, entrepreneurs can be really hard on themselves, even though they want to do better and get bigger and grow more. How is that world for you?
I think it kind of does always go back to humbling myself and realizing, like, okay, I might want this and this is a huge goal, but if I constantly set this stuff that's like, I just don't have a plan in place for it, maybe, like, if I set goals that big that it's like, well, how do I even develop a plan for that? And you just constantly fail, you're going to eat yourself alive and you're going to go back to those old habits. So I think realizing, like the way my wife does it, and she does it much better than I do, is I don't know, and it's like, this is where it's hit or miss, because I do believe in the saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Right.
However, my wife doesn't plan. She's gotten a lot of success early in her life.
Wow.
She does not plan. She's not the type of person. She didn't really plan out the salon. She was like, hey, we have the money, let's do it. Didn't have the logistics figured out of how you're going to hire people, what you want to ask them on interviews, exactly what the salon's going to look like, exactly how much it's going to cost. I'm very analytical. And the analysis by paralysis kills me far more than the failing to plan. I would almost rather not plan anything so I don't overanalyze. Because I'm constantly so analytical on everything. It's like the marketing and the nerd in me, I guess. I was like, I want to know what it's going to look like before it does. And it always bites me in the ass. It
What do
makes
you
me either
attribute?
not do
Why?
anything.
What is that from? Why do you think you have that?
I think it's the internal fear. Like I said, like the fear of the failure on the other side of that is what makes me analyze everything and then be slower about it. Whereas if you don't analyze, or sorry, if you're not afraid, you're confident in what you're doing, you just know you got to do these tasks every single day. You don't necessarily need to have an exact plan and, like, this is what it's going to take. Because she doesn't really do that. And like I said, she's seen a lot of
That's
success,
awesome.
and
Yeah.
she's had a lot of success, even taking big risks like opening a whole salon
Right.
and doing that kind of thing.
Right.
So to me, it's like I don't know. Some people believe that, like, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Yeah.
But I think every time I've ever tried to plan everything, it's always analysis by paralysis,
Interesting.
or paralysis by analysis. Sorry,
Right,
I'm saying
yeah.
it backwards.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate you being transparent. Also, that self-reflection, being able to just say it, like, that that's something that can hold you back at times, right? And your wife's mentality also has some setbacks, just kind of
100%.
guns blazing,
Yeah.
and there
That's
are
what she's
entrepreneurs.
dealing with right now.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But there's pros and cons of both, right?
Yeah.
It's finding that middle ground for both the
Of course.
personalities that helps you grow. So I appreciate you answering that. So
Yeah.
the next big question is, how would you like to be remembered?
that is a big one. It's a big one to unpack. Um,
Video daddy.
well, they'll remember that, that's for
Yeah,
sure. But
that's funny.
that's not what I want to be remembered for. um, that's a good one. I think it's just being a good person genuinely, but like not just that, because like obviously that's too vague. Like in the sense of I don't want people to look at my business and be like, oh, that's that business isn't right or don't support that business. And largely because of the ethics I grow up around and stuff is like I only want to do good business. I'm sure you've seen it on my stories. Like the times I'm feeling grateful, it's like because I know like I'm succeeding in these things in my life. I feel good about it and I'm doing good business.
Right.
I mean, I want to be remembered for that largely because at the end of the day, if you're doing good business, it's because you're also being a good person.
Mm,
So I would say like regardless of if I ever hit my business goals and my agency ever grows to the level I want it to, I at least want to be remembered by those that are around me that what I was doing was good and commemorable. Is that the word?
yeah,
Or
yeah, yeah.
honorable, I
Honor,
guess,
yeah,
on the
right,
same
right.
time. Because I don't want to be looked at in a bad way.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's everyone, but that's like the best way I can describe it is it's more like attributable to business,
Hmm.
but also of course in other aspects of life. Like I don't want people to think that I'm a bad husband or a
Right,
bad father in the
right,
future or,
right.
stuff like that, I guess, like being disciplined, being hardworking, like those are things that I want to be known for. And, you know, I think I
You do.
give that off, but I don't know.
Yeah,
It's hard to know what other people think of you,
yeah. It's
and
true.
until they just tell you.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And a lot of times it's only negative.
yeah.
A lot of times.
Well, from me to you, you are living up to those standards. So,
Appreciate it, man.
yeah, and I like what you're saying. You want to do good business and have a good business, an extension that reveals who you are as a person,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is a good person. So that's cool. I like that. Where do you see yourself? It's probably a good question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
And five.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a big one. I still see myself here in Arizona
Okay.
because I think, um, but I do hope to have my business expanded outside of Arizona.
Nice.
Um, where do I see myself though? I definitely want to have already experienced a large amount of what the world has to offer by that point. Um, both financially, spiritually, I guess, if you will. My spirituality is a little weird, I guess, to describe, but spiritually, financially, in my marriage, I want to experience a lot of that stuff before like I'm, 31, 32, because I want to be able to then hopefully, have a kid or two with my wife and be at a point where I'm not feeling like the child is holding me back from living my life. Like I've already
Done.
become
Yeah.
satisfied and stuff. Not that I can't do anything else once I have the kid, but
Right.
I want to experience as much as life has to offer in the next 5 years and through business as well,
Right.
right? Like I
Right.
want my business to expand. I want to have probably like I don't necessarily desire to have a physical location. That's the weird part.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of agencies that once they grow to a certain point, they kind of need it. I understand that, but I don't know if that's necessarily in my plan, but I do want to have a large team.
Yeah.
Um, I want to have a team of videographers, of other marketers who know Facebook ads, other marketers who know Google ads. I want to build like a community around my business as well, though, because
Mm.
it doesn't necessarily have to be directly attributable to my business
Yeah.
either.
Yeah.
Because like right now, my advertising partner is not in my business.
Right.
We are partners because we both know each other's service is good and it also benefits each other
Right.
because I can now advertise or not advertise, but I can now offer advertisements for my clients,
Hmm.
and now he can also then go offer higher video production.
Yep.
So things like that, like my business has expanded because now I have a partner who I trust in,
Hmm.
and that I trust in his service as
Yep.
well.
Yep.
So like things like that, like having videographers on my team, editors, that kind of stuff. I see myself in 5 years being a much higher level entrepreneur, and not in the sense of financial, but in the sense of managing a lot of people who do things. And obviously comes with that a lot of stress, and
Right.
you're managing people's emotions. You're also managing a business still,
Yep.
but much higher level things.
Yeah.
Not like, oh, I'm just going to go out and shoot a bunch of videos and I
Right.
want to shoot big videos. Like,
Yeah.
I want to step away from that in a sense, not because of the lack of desire to do it, but for the sense of growth and
Yeah.
scale.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be able to grow my business.
Yeah, you said that right when you came in. That was one of your biggest things. I got to find an editor, and what I've learned. Not that I have a big business, but other people that I've been around that have big businesses, I've heard them talk about the growth scale problem. Is you can grow, but the more you release control over things, the more trust you have to have to grow the business. But yeah, that's great. I hope that for you. And it's 2025. Like, people own businesses that are completely remote. Like, they don't even have an office space. Running a call center with people across the world. Like, it's very possible for you to have
100%.
a huge agency without an office building. So I hope that for you.
And that's, yeah, I mean, that's the goal. I mean, it's hard to set like a direct, like, attributable number. And even then, like, I don't like the perception that comes with that. If I say, like, oh, I want to make 20 million a year
Yeah.
by 5 years, like, it could come off the wrong way to certain people. So
Yeah, I've had guys come in and be like, I want my business to be at 10 mil or whatever. And,
yeah,
again, at the end of the day, I told you, like, people who are successful to me are happy in what they do. That's all
100%.
that matters, right?
That's the biggest thing for me, because yes, I have financial goals, and not that that will solely dictate my happiness, but of course I want to achieve those. Like,
Right.
there's a reason I set them in place.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I'm a Christian. I read the Bible, and there's a verse that says, a man without vision, or people without vision perish. And, having goals, yet I'm not one that have like huge goals and write them down. I do have goals in life, but I'm not so hard set on each one. Like, I don't put them on a stone and I engrave it.
It's more like the overall mission, not
Yes.
just like each individual goal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but I appreciate you making sure you do have goals like that. That's always important, right? So, this one I'm curious to hear. What is success to you?
I think, like I said, knowing that what I'm doing is desirable and good for what I'm selling is good, but also, like, happiness in my own life. Because if I ever get to a point where I'm not happy with what I'm doing, then it's, I don't care how much money it makes. Like, you know what I mean? Like I would love to make 1 million a year or 2 million a year, right? But it's like, I just told my wife last night, I'm like, if what you're doing right now is so stressful, yes, you're like pushing towards a goal financially, and that's really, really, like, honorable, and like, I commend you for that. It's like, you do have to take a step back to take another step forward, 2 steps forward. And that's where she's at, because she's at the point now where she needs to start delegating more. And she has had a hard time developing that trust with other people so that she can do that.
Right.
So I'm very much the same way. As like, success to me is being able to do good business, be successful, and have those around me that I love and that love me to stay that way. Like, to have that camaraderie and love from other people too, not just my wife, but like other people as well.
Right.
And not in the sense of like the way it makes me feel, but the way it makes all of us feel.
Yeah.
Right? Anyone who's a part of that. So
Like
I
that.
would say that's my definition of success.
I like that. That's awesome.
It's kind of open, but
Yeah, I like that. I like that you said that. You can make more money, but if you're not happy, it's not worth it. It's sad that there are people who just go after the money and make all the money in the world and end up in a place where they're not happy, right? And they have all the money, they have everything that they wanted as far as materialistic wise, but deep down inside, they're not happy. Right. And then vice versa. People who don't
Yeah.
have anything aren't
Yeah.
happy, wishing they
Yeah.
had more money. Right.
100%.
So yeah, I could see where you're coming from with your with the success. So what I would like to do, I'm going to go through this rapid fire round.
Okay.
And they're just kind of like quick questions, kind of fun. I don't want you to think about it too much.
Okay.
And you just answer them.
I got you.
All right, ready?
Let's go.
Are you a pizza or spaghetti guy?
Pizza.
Nice. I like that. Coke or Pepsi?
Neither.
Neither. I was thinking that was it. Why? Like zero sugar at
Well,
least? Or
no,
like
sorry. Let's be honest. Coke.
Coke. Okay,
But I don't really drink soda.
You know, just okay.
But if I am going to have one, I'm never touching a Pepsi. Yeah, no way.
That's funny.
Coke at least does give me a smile.
Okay. All right.
Sponsored.
There you go.
No,
There
I'm
you go.
just kidding.
Sponsor. I like that.
No.
Are you a walk on the beach type of guy or an early morning hike?
Both of them are a little casual. I would say hike, though. It's a little less casual.
Okay. Okay. All
I
right.
like both.
Okay.
But I'm very much a like energetic. Like I like to do things that are adrenaline filled. I was always an adrenaline junkie.
Okay.
It's one of my worst vices. 100%. Like it's the reason I bought
It
almost
is.
a 700 horsepower car. Like
Yeah.
it's just how it goes. Like dude,
It
the
is.
adrenaline always can be higher, but it always the baseline creeps up too, which is the
Yeah, you
crappy
get
part.
used to it, and you got to look for the next
so
one.
much. And
get it.
being on leader bikes for a couple of years ruined my
Oh
adrenaline
my gosh.
levels.
Yeah,
Just absolutely obliterated. This car is not fast to me.
that's crazy.
Like it's fast. I understand it is. Like
Right.
I'm like perceiving it from the sense of like it doesn't scare me, so it's not perceived as fast. Whereas like you talk to really anyone else and they're like, "Holy sh!" You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's just
right. Because your body's experienced something at a whole other level
Oh,
that
100%.
it'll never feel that way again.
I could only imagine how like paratroopers feel or like people who've actually been to like combat.
Right.
Like, how do you would never, I almost guarantee it, like the closest thing I've ever seen to combat, I'm like, I could never imagine what it actually feels like to be
Yeah,
through combat.
it's true.
Everything would never satisfy you that way.
Right.
Genuinely. I'm like,
Yeah.
I understand why they come home and they just buy a pickup truck.
Right.
Because it's not like a car is even going to give them an
Yeah.
adrenaline rush.
Yeah, it doesn't even compare.
It's not like getting shot at by towel heads.
Yeah. yeah. Very true. Very true. I like that. So if you could make $1 million once or get $15,000 a month for the rest of your life, which one would you choose? $1 million up once or make $15,000 a month?
$1 million at once. Here's why. I would take that $1 million. I would upgrade my lifestyle a little bit, not
Glad you're
much.
saying it. There you go.
I'd take maybe 100 grand,
Okay.
and then that 900,000 is gonna go somewhere that'll make me a lot more than 15,000 a month.
There you go. Okay.
So then I'm making more than 15,000 a month.
Okay. Fair.
Risk with more reward.
But
as
you're taking
opposed
that risk
to-
on you. Right?
Yes, as opposed to no risk.
Right.
No risk, 15,000 every month. I'm gonna live steady, comfortable the rest of my life. Great. I'd much rather make way more with more risk.
I like that.
Because $900,000 invested can make you way more than 15 grand a month
Yep.
if done the right way.
If yeah,
But you can also then pay for people who have the knowledge.
that's the truth.
Pay for people who have the knowledge on how to make you more than $15,000 a month.
It's true.
Without a big sum of money up front, you can't really do that.
No.
15 grand a month might not be enough. It probably would be, but
Slower outcomes. with
Exactly,
the
100%.
15. Yeah.
it's much more exponential as opposed to, you could just skyrocket all at once.
I got 900 grand. I'm ready to spend it on knowledge. That'll
Literally.
get you there.
Yeah, or 900 grand.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
900 grand will get you a lot.
Yeah, that's true. Are you football or basketball?
Can I say neither?
You can. You can.
Soccer.
Okay, that's true. I need to add that on
Or
there.
motorsports.
That's true.
I grew up playing soccer. That was the one sport I played after I quit playing football, baseball,
Baseball,
basketball, all those things. I went just to soccer, and I did soccer year round. Even in
Nice.
the winter, I would go indoor league.
Nice.
I'm a skinny guy. I'm fast. I'm agile. So
Right.
like soccer just made sense for me.
Yeah, you're pretty tall too.
I am tall.
Yeah, so
Left wing.
Left
Same
wing.
same position as Ronaldo.
cool. I like that. I like that. Cool. Stocks or crypto?
That's a hard one. Stocks hasn't really made me money yet. Crypto has. However, I understand that crypto is a little bit more gambly. So I tend to stay away from crypto. Crypto has made me money though. But I don't know. That's a hard one.
Stocks, old money, crypto's new money to me. So it's like it always varies to who it is.
I think crypto is just such a different world. And because it's so unknown largely still, it's a lot scarier. I wouldn't know how to analyze a market. I don't know how to analyze a market for stocks. So what I'm doing in stocks is what's tried and true. S&P 500. Oh man, I just lost 10 grand. Yeah, guess what? It's going to go back up in a year. So if you just keep putting back in, it's going to go up.
There you go.
It statistically has always gone up. Whatever, I think it's like they say 8% or something
Yeah.
per year
Yeah.
for the last 60 years. It's done that.
Yeah.
So I'm not too worried about my money in there.
Yeah.
It's gonna gain me money and hopefully combat inflation. Because God, if inflation is over 9%, I mean we're pretty much all anyways.
Yeah. Yep, it's very true. Very
So
true.
it's largely more like an inflation combatter.
You
That's
gotta
about
have
it.
it. Yeah, I like that. So,
So
your
stocks.
stocks. Cool.
Stocks.
Okay, are you Lamborghini
Stonks.
or Ferrari? This one's
Lambo.
Oh, that's fast.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I used to be Ferrari. I used to be Team Ferrari. Working with Creative Bespoke actually largely changed my mind on that.
Really?
Ferrari's build quality on the inside is actually pretty cheap. They do not handle weather.
Really?
Yeah, like a Ferrari with 8,000 miles with a like dash pulling up.
No way.
Yeah, just because it sat outside sometimes.
Cheaper than a McLaren's build quality interior wise?
I don't know. I haven't had a whole lot of experience with McLaren, but I do know that anyone who's ever bought a 720 has the seat like delaminating on the back.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of those things like to me, like, yeah, it sucks because you like spend a lot of money for a car, but it's like you for what you're getting performance wise, you spent a lot less than you should.
True. Right.
So glue it back on and call it a day. Like, yeah, I mean,
Right.
I bought a Corvette not because it's got the highest build quality, but
Right.
because it's fast as hell.
Yeah.
And that's the same for a McLaren. Yes, you pay more than a Corvette, of course, but you're largely paying for performance.
True.
Because for 200 grand, you can get a 720 horsepower car versus a Ferrari that makes 720 horsepower is like $500,000-$600,000.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, the quality inside's a little worse, but you also pay different.
Right. Yeah, that makes total sense. No one's really explained it that way, but you've been around these cars a lot, so you kind of understand them pretty well. So that makes sense.
A $200,000 McLaren gets you a lot more performance than a $200,000 Ferrari does.
Right.
Ferrari's slow, comparably.
Yeah. At
So-
200,000, yes.
So that's well, even at the 500,000 point, 765 versus a Pista, the
True, you're
765
right.
still destroys
The
it.
Pista, yeah, you're right.
And the Pista, I think, is like 600 now, 700 for low
Dang.
mileage examples.
Wow.
And desirable specs. Like I'm pretty sure it's up there now.
I'm sure, yeah.
It's crazy. That's an
crazy.
expensive car.
Yeah. It's more about the Ferrari
Oh,
than anything else.
paying for the brand.
Yeah.
It's the same with Lambo though too, because this car will smoke a Huracan. It'll smoke a 458.
That's
Easy.
crazy.
It'll even put up a fight with a 488 base model.
Wow.
But I paid barely over 60 grand for this car. That's what I mean. It's like, yeah,
great.
I don't get the build quality. I get that, but I
Right.
get all the performance.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
you
like
gotta
tit-
choose.
tit for tat. What do you want?
Right, exactly.
You can get both, but you're going to be paying for both.
Yeah, some guys buy the Ferrari Lamborghini more for the Ferrari Lamborghini than the performance. You're like a true gearhead car guy. Like it's about the experience of the car than
Yeah,
it is
100%. And I don't like Lambo because it's faster than Ferrari necessarily. I like Lambo because I think there is just no car that has more presence than
Right,
an
yeah.
Aventador.
so true.
And like, yeah, I mean, they're both kind of going the wrong route now with all the hybrid stuff.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother debate.
Right.
But like the V12 from an Aventador, even a base model, you put a
Yeah.
proper exhaust on it,
Yep.
it's nuts, dude. Like there is no more street presence than that car.
So true.
I don't care what Ferrari you have,
I
it
can
does
hear
not
it
have
right
the
now.
presence.
V12. Yeah. Daily driven exotics, DDE.
Oh,
They're freaking SVJ.
anything with a straight pipe on it is just nuts
It's
to
true.
me.
Yeah. Here we go. Just a bunch of kids and cars, right?
Yeah, literally.
I like that.
Adult Legos.
Yeah. Yes. Last question would be if you could have any superpower in the world, what would it be?
That's a hard one. I have not revisited this question in a long time. That's like a question you get asked when you're dating.
Oh, really?
So it's like, that's been like probably 3 years since I've been asked that.
This is a question to ask at Apple when you go to interview.
At Apple.
Yeah. Literally.
Really?
Yep.
Any superpower? That's
Mm-hmm.
a really hard one.
Not Flash. I mean, come on. You want to go fast?
No, because it would be the same thing. It would just become normal. It would be normalized.
That's funny.
Teleportation. Man, that's a hard one. I do have to think on that one. Man, I'm sorry. This is supposed to be a quick fire one.
You're good.
I feel like a lot of people say like super strength, invisibility. I don't want to
Visibility's
be
been
invisible.
said.
I don't want
Yeah.
to be invisible. It doesn't do anything for my business.
It's good.
Probably to something. Man, this is a hard one. Inspiration, like just ultimate inspiration. Like I have the power to just inspire people to do what it is that they can do best, to be the best version of themselves. That would be my superpower because that would be far more beneficial than anything I could ever have for myself. Way more beneficial. That would be far more impactful. That would be what I would want to be remembered for. Is be so inspiring that it changed this many people in the world to become a better person. So therefore making the world a better place, not just myself and what's right around me. That I think would be the ultimate superpower.
That's really cool. That's a really cool answer, kind of explaining who you are all in one, power and everything. That's really cool. I like that.
Because
Yeah.
power without meaning is what? I don't know. I don't think it really means anything at that point.
Yeah.
Obviously meaningless, but I'm saying like I feel like it has to have a meaning, and then it's got to be external. Otherwise, that power turns you to a villain,
Yeah.
I guess, because
Yeah.
that's really what the bad guys are. Is they
Just
have the
want the
power,
power.
but they focus more on their negative feelings as opposed to doing good.
Right. Yeah.
So
like
to
that.
me, it's like I don't want that.
I like that. That's a good answer, actually. I like that. It's gonna be clipped.
Oh,
So yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm sure you're gonna have cut out the fluff.
Yeah, no, it's good. I like it. I like it. And for this podcast or listeners who are all across the world, from what I've seen, and people in their journeys of whatever business, creativity, what could you leave with them in your journey and impart take it to the people listening?
I think an artist by the name of Journey once said it. Don't stop believing. And like I'm like really breaking the fifth wall right here.
Yep.
Fourth wall, is it? Fourth wall, I believe.
Fourth, fifth, or sixth.
Don't stop believing in what you can do, because at the end of the day, you have nothing if you don't. Even if you don't have anything, even if you don't have the skills, at least believe in yourself that you can go and get the skills. At least. Because without that, you ain't doing nothing. That's about it.
That's the truth. That's the truth.
I had to break the fourth wall because I'm delivering a very
have
direct
to.
message.
Yeah, what I just pictured is like people can take the car, everything else from your life, but the one thing that you have that no one can take is your belief in yourself.
Oh, 100%.
And that is a big takeaway.
I've had a lot of people try.
Yeah. Hey.
A lot of people have tested me.
Yeah.
A lot of people have tried.
I love that. Yeah.
But yeah, that's what I got. I think.
Where's the painting at? Toothbrush, red paint.
I don't know if I still have it anymore.
Okay.
I think it kind of got to a point where there was not enough, like too many moves. When I was in the military, I was moving every year.
That's true.
I was still in New Mexico, but I always like moved to a different place. Last year of military, I moved to a small place, so I think that was probably when I got rid of it.
Okay.
But, yeah, it was just like a canvas and black and white, and I painted in bold red letters with a toothbrush that had like jagged like streaks too with the lettering. So I mean, splattered some on it too, not like a ton, but
yeah,
yeah,
I love that.
That was meaningful to me because I think that was something that was just like a reminder to me of like what I needed to reevaluate in my life.
Yeah,
was like, okay, yeah, I'm afraid. I am afraid of failing. Everyone is, right? Yeah. Everyone's afraid of failing and not being successful, especially as young men.
Right.
I mean, God, no one understands the pressure that's put onto young men to be successful.
Right.
In today's world, especially around here, especially.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that was like one of the best reminders to me.
I was curious. I wonder if you still had it or not, but
I wish I did, but I don't think I do.
Hey, it's time to make another one.
That's true. I could go find another one at Ross.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, plenty of lines out there. Well, Trent, it's been a pleasure. This was really fun. Thank you for coming, taking the shot, being on the podcast.